So it's time to alter another brush. I found this really cool, huge brush at a secondhand store. I've done one brush before. You might remember this one. That was actually one I used when we did renovation in my place. I even used a piece of floorboard as well. But I want to go in a different direction with this brush. So please enjoy the process. It's super simple, like always. I will let you listen to some music. All my mediums will be in the captions, and I will talk to you in just a wee bit. And I have a second piece I want to show you towards the end. So everything had a little chance to dry, and actually I took this gecko off one more time to attach this ring you can see there. It's a broken ring, and then I put the gecko back. And now I will continue with more broken jewelry here from my stash. Now, like so often, it's hard for me to show you the complete process as it takes a long time. I also change my mind a lot. I get up and look for pieces, and trying to edit all the extras out of it is just a little bit of an editing nightmare. So I thought maybe you would like to see it in speed version. That way I don't have to be so careful about editing, and you get a little idea about the way I put it together. And yes, and my head is in the way, and so yeah, it's not a perfect recording, but I hope you still enjoy getting a little glimpse of the way I work. is my altered brush, pretty much done except a little dangle I want to add. I put together this chain here by using bits and pieces from my broken jewelry stash. There are 3 charms. There's a nice rustic looking closure right here. Now I don't really need it to attach this thing. The closure is mostly for looks because I can just drape it over here to one side, something like this. Let's see, maybe a little over. There you go. So this is the way I thought it would look nice. And here in the back I added a little screw right here and a ring to the chain, and by attaching it, it keeps the chain more or less in the right position. Now the back is super simple, of course. There's a hanger, so the brush is ready to grace someone's wall. And here in the front, of course, are all the details. One more time, my little gecko. I really like the way the different pieces complemented the shape it has, and the little tag with the string. Now, coloring both of these in black, of course, made them to stand out and give a little extra interest to the piece. Now, all the dimension I achieved with the wire and the fabric and all the different elements work together, I think, to give it a pleasant shape and to, yeah, complete the look. So here is that material going around the edge. The edge is very simple. I didn't want to overdo it. Few elements on the top. So here it is. And I also really like that the brush is visible here on the bottom, just the way it was in the beginning. So far for my altered brush. Now I do have a second piece I really would like to show you. It is completely different in many ways, but it does have a very similar coloration. There too I used my spray first to get into all the little nooks and crannies, and then I added ink, I added my metallic paints. Now one reason why I always cover my sprays is because I haven't found a permanent one. Most of them are very light sensitive. They fade very easily when things are hanging up on the wall. They work great if you work in your art journal and it gets tucked away, but anything that hangs up on the wall is not so great. Some of them fade actually very rapidly. So by adding the metallic acrylic permanent paint over it, it kind of seals everything in, and the spray just helps to get a good start and get some of the colors in all the little corners. Alright, so there's this one. So next I have another one of my box assemblages. I worked in a sturdy wooden box. I used 2 tiny drawers that come in those old-fashioned jewelry boxes, and I turned one upside down and you can still see the drawer knobs here. Now by placing them this way I created 2 compartments, and that always is nice to work with, but also breaks up the overall look and makes it more interesting. Now all the teal or turquoise elements are mostly toys, tiny little bits and pieces I have in my stash. I picked actually mostly the construction toys, which don't have a definite shape or recognizable anything on their own, but together they have such a nice mixture of textures and interesting shapes, as you can see here in a close-up. Now I did place some things which you can very easily recognize, and that's a spider web up here. There is a big dragon wing over here. There is of course my lantern, a few tiny flowers here and there. There's a little bench and a little figurine. There's a rose and a little tea kettle. There's a stack of books. And then this bee was actually a brooch, and I placed it on a round piece of wood just to elevate it a little bit. And as I said earlier, I colored them in the same way I did the brush, at least the teal part. Now here in these compartments I used black gesso. I also placed some little beads, mostly in the bottom corners, some texture paste all over, and then I distressed them with my copper robin buff. Now my robin buff is a very dark copper, very different to the light copper I used to bring out the texture in all the other elements. So it's a nice contrast. I also placed a mask here I didn't color it. It's a cracked mask, as you can see. And here are 2 dangles. I added 2 hooks, and this is a glass dome with an arrow in it, and it has a little dangle with a teal stone. It's a turquoise, it's actually a real stone, and so is this one, and it's connected to a butterfly. So those 2 dangle and hang nicely. And then I added the metal corners, right, and some craft paper here on all the sides and also in the back. It has the perfect color, but also it fits the theme of the thing, the measurement. And well, talking about the theme, in the past I made many of these box assemblages, and they definitely lend themselves to tell a story. But I always shied away from giving away too much of it. I always left it up to you to think what it could mean. But 2 weeks ago I did chat a little bit about my parenthood assemblage and got such good feedback that I thought, well, maybe you are interested to know what my thoughts are behind these pieces. My hesitancy was always because, well, I don't want to sound like I am too deep or I have the answer, because I don't. But in this piece, my idea was to call it Just Be, like just be yourself. So if you look right here, you can see the word just is right there, and I made it with 4 pieces of little stamps. And then of course the B for BE. So just be yourself, that to me means letting go of old mindsets. That's where the spider web comes in. Taking off any mask we might be wearing, and just going our own path. So the arrow stands for direction. It might also stand for fighting for what's ours, fighting what's our right. And then of course there is a dragon wing, you know, rise above things. There's a light, which to me means destination, recognition, those kind of things. And then of course there is a butterfly, a new start, a rebirth, a new beginning, and so on. So there are a few other things which mean something to me. The measurement, of course, you know, people tend to measure everything. We have a way of wanting everything to fit into some kind of norm, but it doesn't always work for all of us. So that's it. I'm not going to go any further. I leave the rest up to you. Here is my assemblage one more time. So there are 2 pieces I completed this last week. I hope you enjoyed watching me put this together and explain a little bit about this one. I will see you again next Friday. You have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for coming. Bye bye for now.